because as we know, the consumer economy is weak. The general mood amongst high rollers, you could say, is not exactly marvelous. So let's start with Tsogo Sun, which of course has all of those Southern Sun hotels, a number of gaming venues, the most important one of all, Montecasino. They also have properties on the Durban beachfront. They've got significant exposure outside of South Africa as well. We'll talk about those in Mozambique and in Nigeria. Market capitalization, 21.4 billion rands. Price earnings ratio, 9.63. Dividend yield, 5.09%. Let's look at the chart. It did very well prior to 2013, when it kind of came onto the market as a result of the reorganization of SAB Miller's interests and the Gold Reef property. Tsogo Sun, of course, controlled by HCI, but it slid down the line there, and it's also lost its current management team. So give us the background here, Nesan.
Yeah, so as you said, they were initially formed with the Southern Sun Hotel Group. Got the Montecasino license, Suncoast you mentioned in Durban, Gold Reef City as well, which they bought in a share swap agreement with Gold Reef itself.
They used the listing.
They used the listing to reverse themselves into Gold Reef. I actually like these operators. I think they are they've got the best casino assets in the country. The competition, which we'll talk about just now, I think they're able to address the competitive issues. They recently did a deal where they swapped their properties and reverse listed into hospitality property fund as well.
So that's important. So what that did is that it took some of the capital intensity of actually owning the buildings and transferred that into sort of a REIT. And it meant that the resulting Tsogo will be more oriented towards the kind of performance-driven management contracts for managing properties and not encumbered by this big capital base.
Absolutely. And if they want to purchase any additional properties, now they've got hospitality shares in which they can use as currency rather than Tsogo Sun shares. And I think that's very important. Of course, the REIT comes with its own tax benefits and things, but I think that deal is a long-term. We'll see the benefits of that in the long term. And they also acquired some nice assets. I mean, the Grand Western, for example, on the
so just explain
Cape
that.
Town.
So effectively what has happened in the Western Cape was that they were locked out. So partly to offset that risk and partly to prevent also a new casino being established, Sun International has taken on Tsogo, so to speak, as a shareholder in the Grand Western Table Bay properties, which I always thought was a bit odd, but there's nothing that's not odd about casinos and the way the government dishes out the license.
Yes.
So that's settled.
So the Cape Metropolitan, for example, has only one casino license, and they'd like to give another one. Now, Sun International operates Grand West, which is its biggest casino in South Africa, in the Milnerton area, slightly north of
Grand West is where the old Goodwood Showgrounds was, right in the middle there. Okay.
So, Tsogo wanted to get into the Cape Town metropolitan area because it's a lucrative area, but the cost of building a new casino and the sort of the delay in being able to get the license approvals and things, it went for the option of taking a 20% stake in Grand West. Initially, it wanted a 40% stake,
which was available because Grand Parade were looking to sell that down in order to focus on their hamburger interests.
Yes, so. Listen, I'm not sure we're going to have to see how Grand West does, in time. I don't think it's the best located casino. I think you want something on the waterfront. And I'm not sure whether Tsogo's tied its hands in terms of its ability to be able to get another license.
Because it wasn't clear that, I don't know, as I sit here, whether the Western Cape government is of a mind to launch another casino license or to allow one of those from, Caledon or from the West Coast to be brought closer to the Cape Metropole.
I think they were amenable to it. They wanted to issue a separate, a second license. It was challenged by Sun International at the time. But when Tsogo did the deal with the Sun International on Grand West, that whole story seems to have died down now because there's no takers for it.
There's a story going around just on Tsogo that the CEO Marcel van Oorlog and his colleagues, when the reorganization of the business was done, they got quite an aggressive assistance from the company to acquire additional shares. With the share price falling like it has recently, that deal is sort of semi-underwater. So Van Ark either has to sell a whole lot of shares or he has to come up with like 70 or 80 million rand within the next 3 months or something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of criticism. There was some criticism that was too generous a deal. Johnny Copeland from HCI, the controlling shareholder, laughed it off and said, you know what, this is what happens.
Yeah,
is that an issue for you?
It was an interest-free loan that they received from Tsogo in order to fund the purchase of shares. And I'm not quite sure the numbers at the time. It was a few years ago, but it's quite large. It was like 80 million rand or so. Now, of course, even though the loan is interest-free, the fact that the share price has fallen to the extent that it has, has obviously created a little bit of a deficit there. And, somebody has to cut a check. So Marcel subsequently left, so it'll be interesting to see, just how Johnny Copeland deals with it. It's
a reminder that sometimes those executive remuneration packages do cut both ways. There's a lot of bleating when it all goes well and people make a lot of money, but it can also go the other way. So your theory, if you look at that share chart, is that it's going to be a pause that refreshes and that at some point we're going to see a resumption of earnings growth. You like it? Do you think it's hot?
I think it's hot. I think, it doesn't mean that it can't slide from that level. But on a 9 times multiple, on a 5 dividend yield, and a hugely cash generative business where a lot of the capex has already been spent, if you want something that will be aligned towards an improvement in the economic environment, I think this stands out amongst a lot of shares that we look at.
Okay, that's all very well. You can go hot on that. I think I'm going to pass for another 6 months and we'll see where we are in 2018 once people have decided whether they feel positive about life or not. In any event, that's hot. That's